And I can tell you a secret, there were plenty of school lunches that I didn't eat. And I'll tell you something else, I never brought a single lawsuit. I just didn't eat them. I just threw them away. Don't tell my mom. And these guys, however, these kids, elementary school children, obviously it was the parents and the Muslim Association, the Muslim American Society behind them. They brought a suit. They didn't want to eat the Jell-O, but it wasn't good enough just to throw it away. It wasn't good enough just to bring a halal bag lunch. They had to make the whole school district ban Jell-O. Now look, what if you like this stuff? And you're not a Muslim? And you don't have any problem eating gelatinized pork moves? What do you do then? The problem is that Islamic law mandates an authority over non-Muslims. Jewish law doesn't assert any authority over non-Jews. Catholic canon law doesn't assert any authority over non-Catholics. These are voluntary things, but Islamic law asserts authority over non-Muslims, and this public school district in the United States, no more Jell-O for anybody, because the Muslim students don't want it. So these things are happening. There's plenty more examples. I wrote a whole book about it, Self-Jihad, I have a few over there. And Oklahoma banned Sharia. But almost immediately, a judge struck down the law and said, you can't do this, it restricts Muslims' religious freedom. So, here we are at this conundrum. Does it restrict religious freedom to try to resist Sharia? Well, let me ask you this. In the 1890s, Utah was a territory of the United States and wanted to become a state. And there was one big sticking point that kept Utah from becoming a state. You know what it was? Polygamy. The Mormon Church legalized, recognized, acknowledged, understood polygamy as being something that had been ordained by God. And it was in their scriptures. So, what happened? Congress did not say, oh, well, we'll have to just use Utah anyway, because we can't restrict Mormons' religious freedom. Congress outlawed polygamy and said, until Utah outlaws polygamy, and until the Mormon Church outlaws polygamy, there will be no state of Utah. Well, there's a state of Utah today, and there's no polygamy, at least not legally. Now, was that a restriction of Mormons' religious freedom? The United States Congress did not think so, and neither did the United States Supreme Court. The First Amendment was in there then, too, in the Constitution. The First Amendment was not considered to be absolute beyond any consideration of the national interest. The First Amendment was not considered to be above and beyond everything else, such that the health and the safety and the continued prosperity of the United States had to be sacrificed because of it. The restriction, or the lack of restriction, the command not to restrict religious freedom, was understood in light of what the national interest was. Now, this is an even easier case, because polygamy, you can say, well, it's a women's health issue, it's a matter of women's rights, it's a matter of the equality of women before the law, and so on, and these things, all cases can be made, but it's fundamentally a religious issue. When it comes to Islam, nobody really cares, least of all me. If a Muslim wants to read Quran and pray to Allah and do everything that Muslims do that is prescribed by the Quran, insofar as those have to do with religious practice. And Thomas Jefferson said, if my neighbor has one God or 17, it neither picks my pocket nor breaks my leg. It's only when he thinks that his God or his 17 gods want him to come over and pick my pocket and break my leg that it becomes my business. And this is what we're talking about. When we're talking about resisting Sharia, we're talking about the political aspect of Islam. The aspect of Islam that leads Sheikh Haradawi to say that Islam is going to conquer Europe and America. The aspects of Islam that lead Sayyid Abul Alam al-Dudi to say non-Muslims have absolutely no right to wield the reins of power in any part of God's earth. And if they do, the believers have the obligation to dislodge them from that power by any means possible. I make no apology, and don't think that any of you should ever make any apology for resisting the elements of Islamic law that flatly contradict the freedoms that we are guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution and the human rights that are recognized by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.